Joan Esposito. Live, local, and progressive on WCPT 820.
Well, let's try this technology thing again. Adam Mockler is here. He's a liberal political commentator. He hosts the Adam Mockler Show on YouTube. Adam, thank you for being here. We've had a few little technical problems, but I'm sure this interview is going to be perfect.
It's all good. I'm here with the good tech, and thank you for having me on, Joan. This will be a great conversation.
I'm very pleased to have you here. Tell the people listening about the Adam Mockler Show on YouTube and the kinds of things you talk about and cover.
Yeah, so I'm somebody that's had a YouTube channel since I was about 9 or 10 years old, and I used to do a lot of video game content or random content regarding Minecraft when I was young. But in doing so, I was building these editing skills and production skills that I now use to this day to run on the YouTube channel a political show where I break down the news. I oftentimes do debates with people on the other side of the aisle. I keep it respectful. I'll sometimes go on television and debate. I'll go out to rallies and do debates, all kind of building this media apparatus called Mockler Media. And that's what I do every single day.
And this is the time for independent media. It absolutely is, as people see what once were trusted outlets, especially trying to kowtow and capitulate to this White House because their corporate overlords need a favor in some other aspect of their business. This is the time for individual voices to really gain a lot of trust in the audience. And how do you choose? You say you do a lot of debates. Are you invited to those, or do you organize them? And how do you choose the people you're going to debate with and what you're going to debate?
First of all, I just want to say absolutely you're right about independent media. Independent media has the ability to be a lot more nimble and fast-moving in breaking the news and fact-checking this administration. And it's so decentralized because anybody can tell their story. Anybody can go out there and fact-check this administration at a time when most of the corporate media was owned by 4 or 5 main companies. So it gives us a lot of flexibility. When it comes to how I debate, it started off with me going to Trump rallies in Iowa during the Iowa caucuses. You know, I grew up in Indiana, and I would drive over to Iowa and go to these rallies and have rather respectful conversations. Like, genuinely, I would meet a lot of people who I had good conversations with. We just very clearly disagreed, or at least consumed different media. And then from there, it turned into me getting invited to certain panels, getting invited onto certain shows. I do a CNN show a lot now where I like to debate with the Republicans and go back and forth. And it's really turned into something that allows me to be a youth voice on these programs. A lot of times young voices are either ignored or people don't find it that important. But I think it is important to have the youth voices on these programs.
Absolutely. Are you a regular panelist on CNN? And if so, which show, which anchor?
Yeah, with Abby Phillip NewsNight, I go on a lot and I spar with the conservatives there. It's honestly, I have infinite gratitude to that show for allowing me to build my skills and practice and hone everything. And yeah, I'll be on this Friday.
Well, really? This Friday? Well, you know, you're also in luck because I just read in one of my media newsletters, she just signed a 3-year deal to stay at CNN. So, you know, you're looking good for the next 3 years. Of course, I suppose if David Ellison is somehow permitted to do this discovery deal, he keeps saying that, we're going to leave CNN alone. But I seem to vaguely recall he said that they were going to leave CBS alone, too. So who knows, if he completes that deal, maybe you don't have 3 more years, Adam.
Yeah, it's hard to tell sometimes. He explicitly promised Donald Trump, according to the reporting, that he was going to fix CNN. And there's even been moments where Donald Trump and Pete Hegseth will point out CNN reporters and say, I can't wait till the Ellisons put you guys straight. So it's hard to tell how much he's going to change the network. I mean, listen, on one hand, he very clearly wants to influence each network he's in charge of as much as possible to have favorable coverage towards Trump or the Republican Party. On the other hand, he might completely alienate CNN's audience if he makes a pivot there. So I don't know which direction he goes.
Yeah, because, he certainly has not had great ratings success with what's going on at CBS. And, I read the numbers and everybody says, well, yes, it's summer, and summer is traditionally a low time where for measuring your audience. A lot of your audience just goes on vacation. But I mean, these aren't just low numbers for CBS. These are some of the worst numbers they've ever had in their entire existence. And getting rid of Stephen Colbert apparently is considered part of the reason why the CBS morning show is doing so badly, because people who liked Stephen Colbert shut off the TV, went to bed, turned on the television in the morning, and guess what? It was on CBS and the morning show. There really is a real strong effect. First of all, I believe David Ellison lies. I think that he did a secret deal with Brendan Carr. He doesn't deny that he met privately with Brendan Carr. Mm-hmm. He doesn't deny, when he's been asked straight off, that he made Brendan Carr promises. He just won't talk about it one way or the other. So you know what? If he agreed, hey, you know what? Make this deal go through, and I promise you the second I'm in control, Stephen Colbert will be gone. I mean, come on, you know that's possible.
Yeah, and you know what I find interesting about CBS? If you think about the audience, the viewership dropping, it makes total sense because Trump spent his entire political career labeling CBS as fake news. There were even like recurring legal disputes where he would try to sue and he would try to attack CBS. So he basically disenfranchised his own audience from believing in CBS. He made sure that CBS had no credibility in the eyes of the right. Then it gets taken over by Ellison, and then they try to make a rightward pivot. So now they're losing their left-leaning audience as well. And I guess the question is, who is this for now? Like when Barry Weiss sat down with Erica Kirk, who was the target audience there? I just don't get it.
Do you ever have to sit there with their MAGA guy, Scott Jennings?
Behind the scenes? Oh, yeah. I talked to Scott Jennings a lot. He blew up on me a few months ago, and he yelled,
"Oh, you were the one he pointed his finger at."
Yeah, exactly.
Did you ever recover from that assault? The fact that he pointed his finger in your face?
Very quickly, within moments, I recovered, and I realized it's deeply fragile of him to constantly dish it out on these panels and then never be able to take it back when I try to actually hold them down to a question. Like this guy will spend all of his panels, all of his time on air, breaking the rules, being condescending, lying, trying to pivot and muddy the waters. And the moment that I try to pin him down, he acts like I'm the one breaking the rules. There's this asymmetric playing field right now in politics, and you know what? It's happening right now to Senator John Ossoff of Georgia. He made a remark about Natalie Harp, and it wasn't even any insinuation. He just said, Trump is traveling with Natalie. That's all he said.
Yeah.
And now the right wing is collectively melting down, acting like he broke some unspoken rule of politics where you're not allowed to attack people personally. I say Donald Trump's entire political career has been defined by making low blows at other people.
And he didn't say, that incompetent Natalie, that idiot, that moron Natalie. He just said he travels with Natalie.
I mean, he didn't call her a pig. Trump has called female
journalists. He didn't tell her to shut up. He didn't say, shut up, piggy, or any of the things Donald Trump has said.
Yeah, no, it was actually rather like innocent. It was just like a comment that was a throwaway jab. Remember when Robert Mueller died and Trump like spit on his grave right after? I mean, the Republican Party wants to gaslight us and act like we're breaking the rules when they're the ones who have lowered the standard. And that's what you saw with the Scott Jennings clip.
I haven't seen this picked up by the big main medias yet, but the Orlando Sentinel is reporting that your panelist, Scott Jennings, is the #1 candidate to replace Caroline Leavitt as the White House press secretary. So you might not have Scott Jennings to be kicked around by in the future.
No, okay, it's fine. But you know what it actually reminds me of? Like, it makes me think, perfect. He might be the perfect person for this. He's built a really unique skill at being able to grovel at Trump's feet and play defense for the most indefensible things. Whether it's an Iran war that was supposed to last 4 to 6 weeks, he'll defend that into week 6, into week 8. We are now 172 days into this war that was supposed to end over 150 days ago, and he is still defending it. He'll defend the ICE raids. He'll defend all of this. So I think it's perfect. I think that him taking Caroline Leavitt's job would be great. I think the reality is it would be a bit of a pay cut, and there's not a lot of career upside in being the press secretary. Like, he'll get a lot of bad clips of him not really knowing what to say. So he'll probably just stay comfortable in his own job. But I mean, it makes sense.
Well, I've observed for a number of people that power or perceived power sometimes outweighs a big salary. So,
That's true.
Caroline Leavitt, I've heard a lot of people talking about how, she could have one press conference and lie 43 times. And so she was perfect for the job. And let's face it, Scott's got a lot of practice saying things that are untrue. I think, frankly, Abby and the other shows he's on, sometimes he just wears the hosts down, because there is so much that comes out of his mouth that is wrong. That I don't know if he were on a show of mine on a regular basis. I think at some point I would just get tired, and I would just hope the audience knows it's him. They know he can't be trusted. Do I have to interrupt him and correct him every time? I don't know. Do you think that the CNN hosts do their job when it comes to Scott Jennings?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of times when CNN hosts assertively push back and fact check him, but what he deploys is a strategy that I call just muddying the waters. His goal isn't even to explicitly win every conversation or make every conversation a good point for Trump. He just wants to sit there and muddy the waters enough where the audience is confused on whether Trump actually did something bad. So, for example, when Donald Trump sent out this Truth Social post, directing then Attorney General Pam Bondi to essentially target 3 different politicians. He said, Pam, please target these 3 people as the AG. And it was Adam Schiff, Letitia James, and James Comey. It was like, it's unprecedented. The president of the United States openly directing the AG to prosecute people, right? We were debating about this on a panel, and Scott had no defense for this because it had never happened before. So I asked him, can you name one example of this happening in any other administration, Democratic or Republican? And he brings out this random example of Biden privately being annoyed that Merrick Garland wasn't going fast enough with something. Like, he basically tries to muddy the waters with this random example that is not equivalent. It is niche. It didn't even apply, but he was able to try to muddy the waters. And trust me, the entire panel jumped at him and was like, dude, that is not true. This is not equivalent. Biden never openly asked his AG to do X, Y, and Z. But Scott Jennings sat there with this smug smile on his face, and I realized in that moment, he's just muddying the waters.
I was going to say that that's one of the things that he does when people do try to fact check him or correct him. He just gets this. He gets this look on his face. I see the same look whenever I think J.D. Vance thinks Donald Trump is going to die and he's going to be president eventually. He gets this little smile, this little smug look on his face, no matter what the context is. You can be talking to him about, oh my God, hundreds of thousands of people are dying. But he's smiling because he's like, I know I'm going to be president. I know I'm going to be president. Just hang on. I'm going to be president. Woohoo!
I like how candid Chicago radio shows are. This is great.
Well, I see it over and over again. And, supposedly Rubio and Vance, or Vance and Rubio, is Trump's dream team, and the only reason that I read that sentence is because apparently Pete Hegseth has decided that he's going to help other Republicans. He's going to go to Iowa and campaign. Isn't that interesting?
It's really interesting, and I'm not sure he's helping them at this point. I mean, Pete Hegseth, to me, represents a currently failing war with Iran, where sailors are stuck, they're trapped on the USS Abraham Lincoln. And he's out there campaigning in Iowa, which is really, really weird to me. It's almost just as weird as Todd Blanche going to one of the Trump Republican rallies. That is our attorney general.
Yes, I believe that's a Hatch Act violation, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it's a Hacked Act violation. It's a violation of the separation of powers, and it's honestly just a little bit disturbing to see a politicized DOJ in that manner. Just because it's in the executive branch does not mean that the president and the attorney general can be buddy-buddy. But going back to Pete Hegseth, it's also just similarly disturbing that he thinks he can boost the approval rating of the Republican Party. I mean, this Iran war is something that is breaking through to younger generations Anybody that passes a gas pump every single day, anybody that thought we weren't going to get into endless wars is now being kind of just smacked across the face. And the point that I was making when Scott Jennings blew up on me really quickly is that we've gotten zero concessions from Iran throughout this war. The goal of any war is to use military force to extract political concessions from your opponent. We've gotten zero from this war while bearing all of the cost. And Pete Hegseth is the face of that, so he shouldn't be out there.
Well, don't worry, because once we bomb Oman, I'm sure Iran will sit up and take notice and be much more cooperative. Have you ever heard anything as absurd? We're going to bomb the country that is mediating the agreement we are so desperate for. I mean, it makes your head explode.
The only thing that I've heard that's absurd as that is what Trump said like 2 hours later when he said that we're going to withdraw our military from South Korea partially because Kim Jong-un is nice to him. Like, what are we doing here? What are we doing here? I don't get it.
Yeah, you and me both. We're way past time to take a break. We are going to come back with Adam Mockler right after this.
Joan Esposito, live, local, and progressive on WCPT 820.
If you want to be cool and hip and politically up to date, you need to be watching the Adam Mockler Show on YouTube. He is somebody who lives and breathes politics the way most of the people who listen to this radio station do. And, you know, one thing that you just said that I want to go back to, Adam, you talked about, I mentioned that Pete Hegseth announced that he was going to go to Iowa and campaign, though a lot of people think he's there to campaign for himself, and whether or not the people, the Republicans there, really wanted that kind of an association, that kind of help. Recently, the woman who's running for Senate in Alaska, Mary Peltola, basically told Kamala Harris, I don't want your help. Kamala Harris has a PAC, and she did a promotion for the PAC trying to get donations, and she was like, you know, there are great people running for office. Mary Peltola in Alaska is a great candidate, and we really need to support her. And her campaign was like, you know what? Don't do that. Don't do that. We don't want your endorsement. We don't want you campaigning for us. And there was some question about whether the money raised by Kamala using Mary's name was actually going to end up supporting Mary, or whether it was going to just build this PAC that Kamala was going to be in charge of. But I thought to myself, I thought that was jaw-dropping, especially since there have been, as I'm sure you've heard, rumblings that Kamala thinks that maybe she'll jump back into the presidential race in 2028. What did you think when you heard all that?
So I think that Kamala is gearing up for her 2028 campaign. And as somebody who's a leader in the party, she keeps putting her thumb on the scale of certain races, as leaders should. But the cold, hard reality right now is that there is a massive anti-establishment wave, both among Democratic voters and just the broad constituency. People want change agents, and that explains a lot of the phenomena we've been seeing in the Democratic primaries. Abdul El-Sayed beat Haley Stevens in Michigan very narrowly because people want change candidates. Even Zohran Mamdani taking on the establishment is a good example of this. So Mary Peltola is fighting a rather uphill battle in Alaska for her 2026 race. And I think right now she doesn't want to tie herself to an establishment that is very unpopular. Now, whether or not that's fair to Kamala Harris is a very good debate or question to have. But if you just look at the raw numbers, being associated with either the Biden administration or what's perceived as the Democratic establishment is oftentimes a weight right now. Like if you're a Democratic primary candidate and you're taking money from special interest groups and you are really associated with the establishment, you're going to be fighting an uphill battle. People want these outsider candidates. So I think it's as simple as that. It's a calculation that's like, hey, we're not trying to tie our campaign to Kamala Harris's campaign or Kamala Harris's overall brand, but I don't think it has to be like inherently disrespectful. I think she said, Mary Peltola's campaign said broadly, they're just not associating with like certain fundraisers.
Why is it, Adam, that you can see quite clearly that this is a change election? I can see quite clearly that this is a change election. And yet, when I listen to the things that Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer say, they don't seem to have that same view of reality that we do. I don't understand if that they're just too insulated. They've spent too much time on Capitol Hill and not enough time talking to people in the country. But it does seem that they are out of step with the Democrats in this country. What do you think?
I think them being insulated is part of it. I also think you have to look at the incentives of politicians. So right now, the incentives of people like Chuck Schumer or Hakeem Jeffries are to protect their own power. And when they see that people like them are losing primaries and becoming increasingly unpopular, rather than changing, they seem to be rather stubborn in the sense that they want to continue doubling down on the same exact things. They, in their minds, have the incentive to keep things the same and not change things, because when things are the same, they have more power. It's that simple. I think a lot of politicians fall victim to these incentives of the political institutions. So certain politicians take money from AIPAC or from other special interest groups, when right now it's unpopular, but that's the incentive that is created. Even Mitch McConnell right now, he's been, missing for a while, but he's still clinging on to power. It's because the incentive of the people around him, the staffers, the people in his team, are to maintain their power. They're not going to willingly give up the last bits of power that they have. And then finally, I just don't know if some of the leaders that are established understand how nimble and flexible and overall captivating these new campaigns can be. I like Abdul al-Sayed a lot. By the way, he's not a DSA guy. He's not a socialist. He's a free market guy. He's rather pragmatic and practical, and he knows how to leverage social media in a very flexible and nimble manner. And I just don't see that with some of our established leaders.
Yeah, and people don't understand, they look at the sort of a manifesto for the Democratic Socialists of America. But Democratic Socialists, the very definition that I have is that a Democratic Socialist is still a capitalist. But the difference is that a Democratic Socialist believes that government should help people. I know that that's a radical idea, especially if you're a Republican, but it's an idea I can get behind. Oh, by the way, speaking of age, I'm sure you've seen where Chuck Grassley is running for re-election.
No way.
Yes, he is. And I think if he does get reelected, he's going to be something like 96 or 97 when he finishes his next term.
Oh, he's almost ready to go into the White House at this point. I feel like he could be the next president.
Oh, Adam, that's perfect. Oh my God.
Wait, he is 92 years old. Listen, it's not even an ageist. Like when it comes to pilots, for example, you have to retire at the age of 65 as a pilot because you have the lives of other people in your hands. You're literally, you're holding the lives of the people in the plane in your hands. Now, I don't know if it should be that rigid with elected office where you just be 65, but you similarly have lives in your hands. It's scary that a 92-year-old will be 96 when he leaves office. It's wild.
It is, isn't it? Let's see, we have like 1 minute left. Just real quick, here in Illinois for our primaries, AIPAC was the kiss of death. Pretty much any candidate that took AIPAC money and it became public, they lost and lost badly. Do you think the tide is turning on the whole PAC money, corporate money?
Yeah, it's absolutely turning, and AIPAC is a litmus test for broader views of politicians. It's not even particularly that one special interest group is worse than the other. There's a bunch of interest groups, NRA, the coal interest group, climate change interest groups, pharmaceutical interest groups. But AIPAC is just so brazenly in your face about it that if a politician is willing to take money from one special interest group like that and distort their views on a certain foreign policy conflict just because of money, then what else will they sell out to? What other special interest groups will they take money to? What else will they do in order to cling on to power and not represent the people in their constituency? The reality is, the current actions being taken by the Israeli government in the West Bank and Gaza are unpopular with Democratic voters. So I don't know why politicians are taking these unpopular positions and taking money from unpopular orgs when, it's unpopular. But I do know why. It's because they want to cling on to power and they want to use the system to their advantage.
Adam Mockler, it is a delight to talk with you. You should watch the Adam Mockler Show on YouTube. Thank you so much for being here. Really a pleasure.
Thank you. We'll do it again soon, Joan. Thank you very much.
Let's hope so. I've got some ideas that I'm going to bounce off of you, but you know what? We'll save that. I just want, it's a little tease so you can get excited when you see the email.
Okay, anytime. Hit us up anytime. Thank you, guys.